Hi, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Michael Yon, and Kuntarkis had mentioned that we might do Knowing the Heart as the next episode, but we both decided that it would be more interesting for now to do dimensions, realms, and universes. So, without further ado, Kuntarkis, could you explain the difference between dimensions, realms, and universes?
Yes, Michael, it would be my pleasure. A dimension is a level of consciousness, and within a dimension you have realms. A realm is a particular level of consciousness in which an individual lives, normally a physical being, meaning solid matter. You can have an infinite number of realms within a dimension. It's like the light and sound spectrum. We can see and hear a variety of colours and tones, and each has a different frequency, which is a level within that spectrum. So too, there are different levels in a dimension which we call realms. You may also have heard the word vibration being used in this context. Vibration is simply another word for realm. Finally, a universe is a collective of dimensions, and a collective of universes is the totality of existence, physically and non-physical matter, all being manifested from the original source called living energy.
Wow. If dimensions are levels of consciousness, what level of consciousness is the human race presently in?
I knew you were going to ask that question, Michael. Well, let me put it this way. Human beings have been evolving just over 928,000 human years. Presently, humanity physically exists in what is called or referred to as the third dimension, which is the dimension of physical matter. However, I must add that you still have human beings living on this planet Earth in the first and second dimension.
Then what is the difference between first, second, and third dimensional consciousness?
The first, second, and third dimensions are all physical dimensions, but are of different levels of conscious development. The first dimensional human exists consciously on animal instinct, survival instinct, such as prehistoric humans, whereas second dimensional humans are a step up the ladder of consciousness by having made a conscious connection to spirituality and nature, and by gaining an understanding of how they are interconnected with it, and therefore learning to respect it and to live with it harmoniously. With third dimensional humans, most today have consciously stepped up again by moving beyond superstition through to the development of reasoning and intellect. It is important to remember also that within each of these dimensions there are many levels of consciousness. So you could have, for example, two different cultures existing in a third dimensional consciousness, but one slightly more advanced than the other. I guess the best way to illustrate this is to compare first world countries such as Australia with third world industrialized countries, like their religions, political and social beliefs are what separates them consciously. Unfortunately, when you, the human being, evolves into third dimensional consciousness by embracing reasoning and intellect, not only did you let go of unnecessary superstitious beliefs, for the most part, you also let go of your spiritual connection with the totality of the universe, whereas second dimensional humans may have their limitations, and some second dimensional cultures still retain an inherent understanding that they are connected to the earth and all of life. These cultures are taking wisdom with them as they move into the third dimensional consciousness with their spiritual understanding intact. That is, they know that if you abuse the earth, which sustains them or creates imbalance in any way, they and all of their people will ultimately suffer for it in the long run. That's not saying they believe that God will punish them. They are still using reasoning and logic, but the difference is they are using their understanding and knowledge wisely. Humanity in your modern Western third dimensional consciousness has made logic your God and Saviour at the expense of wisdom by sacrificing your innate understanding of the importance for balance in nature and your spiritual connection with it. As a result, humanity arrogantly believes you can undermine the balance of nature and the universe and fix it somewhere else later, or leave it to the future generations to clean up your mess with a band-aid treatment. You are already seeing to your detriment that such logic simply does not compute.
So even though we have progressed consciously to a greater extent, we have also regressed in our consciousness at the same time.
Absolutely, Michael. And it's very sad, yet understandable to any civilization that has had so many violent wars amongst themselves, nearly 1,000,000 years of human evolution. Yes, separated nations with all different cultures, so the karmic paybacks for balance is enormous, to say the least. So yes, consciously humanity has regressed to some degree, but it doesn't end with violent wars. Take families. There have been wars going on within all families worldwide for the same period of human evolution. You have heard the old saying from the Eastern philosophy, the wheel of life. Not all would agree with this statement in what I'm about to say, yet it is the total truth that exists within all, especially my own heart, like it would within all of humanity. The wheel of life is not singular for the totality of humanity. It is plural. This is just a rough idea how many wheels of life exist in this current universe. If we have, say, 7 billion human people on this planet Earth, and on an average, meaning to divide into families, it would be roughly 2.3 billion wheels of life, which includes families plus friends and others to be on the same wheel of life from lifetime to lifetime over the last 928,000 years, and so on. The above was simply an example. It may seem hard to accept, but most of humanity have come so completely dependent on logic that you are no longer consciously aware of anything outside of the physical dimension. You now exist within. As a result, human beings have become denser in physical matter. The denser your human body becomes, the more humanity loses touch with your non-physical existence, meaning your direct connection to your soul. That is the main reason humanity has suffered such violent wars and the inner self-created fears, all from human ego.
What makes us so dense in our body?
It is important to understand, Michael, that it is not just your level of thinking which makes you dense in physical matter. It is also what you as human beings consume within your temple, meaning your body, that is your divine. Over generations and centuries, your human diet has dramatically changed, and as a result, human beings have become denser in physical matter. If you were to go back in the past, say, 1,000,000 human years ago to the Neanderthals, they may have been first-dimensional beings in their thinking, but they were not as physically dense as humanity is today. And even though they were not consciously aware of it, they work with nature instinctively, as any other animal does, because they existed instinctively. It may be a cliche, but you literally are what you eat as you are what you think. When you move away from pure food in as close to their natural form as possible, you begin to alter your human genetics. Your human body begins the process of adapting its altering diet. And yes, it may take generations, but as you are now seeing, genetic breakdown and mutation is occurring more frequently than ever, because what the human body was designed to eat and what it is actually being fed are poles apart. When the human body breaks down, many areas of your internal system are seriously affected. A simple example, your level of thinking, and especially your level of consciousness, also begins to degenerate.
Wow. Why is it important to know this?
Well, Michael, humanity is on the verge of a mass-shifting consciousness into the fourth dimension. No matter what dimension humanity consciously exists in at this moment in human time, be it first, second, or third, your present level of thinking will determine how quickly your consciousness can advance into the fourth dimension. To go beyond the first, second, and third dimensional thinking, and that means any evolving species, you as human individuals have to think beyond your present boundaries. No evolving species that are living in the emotional state with ego can raise their own consciousness unless they become feeling beings without their massive ego. In your third dimensional level of consciousness, humanity has lost their spiritual connection with the earth and the rhythm of nature. There are those human beings who are always trying to control, even defeat Mother Nature, forgetting that you are a part of the totality of where you exist in this very moment. Humanity sacrificed spirituality for science instead of evolving spiritually with science and technology. And so, in your arrogance of believing you are superior, you have lost your connection with the life force that gave humanity their existence. The more humanity can advance their consciousness and connect or reconnect with the wisdom humanity has lost, the sooner humanity can move into the fourth dimension, beyond the physical greed and lust that has imprisoned humanity, even intellectually, creating mass karma from one lifetime to the next.
What are some of the indicators of consciousness changing?
Well, you would have to all agree that you as humanity have an incredible amount of upheaval and conflict on your planet Earth at this time, both emotionally and physically. There is a religious confusion as flaws in religious beliefs are exposed, and the sheer number of wars ignited through religious intolerance are an illustration of this. You also have issues revolving around drug abuse and dependence worldwide, including a mass variety of illnesses, diseases like the superbug, and genetic defects, which are more prevalent today than ever in human history. And of course, what affects all of humanity to some degree is the emotional imbalance you are experiencing on a mass scale due to stress, frustration, and anger. Every single human being needs to ask themselves, why is this happening? Well, if you put it this way, all suppressed negativity in human individuals has now begun to be released and is being expressed outwardly. Confusion in humanity is rising to a boiling point as humanity on the whole are becoming more irrational, more anxious, and more fearful than ever. Humanity worldwide are highly conditioned and controlled to some degree by governments, by societies, by media, that you feel your lives and existences closing in on you. The more fearful you as an individual become, the more your animal instincts react. You want to flee and be free. You are rebelling against the control which you personally allowed to be imposed upon you over many lifetimes. Your thoughts, your wars, your mass violence is also affecting your planet, whether you believe it or not. You are all connected to the Mother Earth, a living being, a living spirit. And what you feel negatively is projected to the planet you live on, just as much as it affects the human beings around you. An example you will readily relate to. You go into a supermarket, and because you're taking too long picking out your vegetables, or because you want to read the labels on some items before making a decision, the human being who is standing beside you is impatiently projecting their annoyance at you for not getting out of their way because they are in a hurry. You can feel their negativity beaming towards you like a heat from a radiator, and you know it's happening because you feel uncomfortable, and you find instinctively you dislike that human person. From a planet's perspective, human negativity has created by increased incidence of cyclones, tornadoes, earthquakes, floods, and major physical disasters. You are all connected, human, to animals, to plants, to the Mother Earth. This isn't new age mumbo jumbo. Science in its own arrogance has made humanity ignore and forget that you are a part of this world and everything that exists within it and upon it. And as much as the rhythms of the planet affect you, like full moons affecting human behavior, you too affect the rhythms of the planet. Just because you live on the surface of the earth doesn't mean you are mutually exclusive of the events which occur upon it or deep within it. This is all happening because humanity is consciously evolving into the fourth dimension. So as much as it may be a frightening thing, it is also a very wonderful thing. After all, you are all consciously growing. There is nothing more important than conscious growth, because when you leave your human body, meaning when you die physically and incarnate again, you will bring your conscious growth with you within your spiritual essence, your life force, which also explains why human beings are at different levels of self-awareness, consciousness in their own evolution. Why? Because everything is energy, and energy is everything.
How can we go into the next dimension consciously if we are in so much conflict?
First, Michael, the conflict lies within each of us. That's where each human being needs to start. When there is conflict within, there will always be conflict outwardly. When we each learn to come from the heart through forgiveness and unconditional love, the negative energies that has built up within our inner being will dissolve back into the nothingness. Only then can an individual begin their transformation from dense matter into the fourth dimension. All human negativity must be confronted and resolved before you can progress beyond your current dimension. You can't take the emotions and physical limitations of the third dimension into the fourth. Of course, this won't happen over a few decades because you have human beings existing in all three-dimensional vibrations, that is, first, second, and third. Rather, it will take many thousands of human years in evolution before that becomes a reality. The biggest obstacle in human terms is fear of change. There is no place for fear in the fourth dimension, as fear is a negative emotion, and you can't take your emotions into that level of thinking. There are many levels or realms of consciousness in the fourth dimension, just as there are currently in the third, and depending on the individual's self-awareness, if they are spiteful, vindictive, hurtful, and fearful, they will end at the lowest end of the fourth dimension, that is the growth in evolution. It's only when you learn to let go whatever it is that is limiting you, the human being, that you can consciously progress up the consciousness scale into higher vibrations within the fourth dimension.
So I just want to ask to clarify, does that mean that certain emotions and negativities will certainly exist in the lower levels of the fourth dimension?
Absolutely, Michael.
Right, and and at the highest levels, they just don't. They're moving
They
towards the
don't.
fifth dimension, which is completely clean.
To give you an idea, there is not a scientist on this planet that will ever, in human history, tell you how many dimensions there are within all the universes, let alone tell you how many universes actually exist in the vastness of the nothingness. Because no one can actually do that. And there is only one being, to my knowledge, and the only reason I am using him as an example is because he is infinite in all things. And he has been around for billions of years, not millions. I'm talking billions. And the universe is, it's beyond measure. I could say to you, like 10,000 trillion quadrillion years the universe has existed, and I couldn't even tell you exactly if that is true or not. Because I've only been around for 3.5 million years. I'm a facet, an energy of my own father, Yarkis Kardis.
I see. So this is something I wanted to ask a little later on, but yeah, how? So well, firstly, is our universe expanding?
Oh, absolutely, Michael.
And it's absolutely huge. And then also, are all the other universes that are around us also expanding?
Absolutely.
Okay, so they're all expanding, and are they like the first layer of marbles, or are they like marbles in a bucket, like all together, but also just because they're round, they're all separate?
Let me put it this way. If you decided to do an exercise and you've got the larger marbles and you started silicon them together,
Yep.
and you created, say, a round ball with all these marbles, and each of those marbles represent a universe, not a planet, a universe. And let's say that it was like, I don't know, let's say half a meter in diameter. Well, can you imagine how many universes you would have in that ball of marbles?
Quite a few, yes.
Quite a few. Now, there are worlds that are expanding 1 billion times faster than planet Earth. If you look at conscious evolution,
Oh, wow.
we're caught in a trap on this planet. This is the learning planet. It is the basic learning planet for us to deal with our most ugliest ego, I suppose, of murder. Because the reason I'm saying that, it sounds a bit silly, sounds a bit judgmental, but I'm trying to get people to understand that we on this planet are only 928,000 years old. Nicarons, 27 million. Big difference in number. They have gone through a lot of learning, and they still are. We are like a baby still trying to walk and find our way. Oh yes, we've got this fantastic technology, and it's growing rapidly. What is not growing rapidly is the development of our own understanding in awareness that leads us to a higher thinking in consciousness. We're caught because of human ego has been evolving for the same amount of time, and it literally rules the thinking level of logic on this planet. Until we each start to take full responsibility and raise our consciousness to accept higher understandings, then we'll never get the intelligence to go beyond the third dimension. We'll be stuck.
And other intelligence won't be interested in helping us because we're just not at the right stage for that yet.
No. I mean, the Karens have tried for nearly 1 million years. They have hung around for that whole 1,000,000 years since they put the first 87,000 Akarons on this planet.
The start of
Yeah.
humanity.
You start with 87,000 Akarons, and you start with all the Neanderthals, and you put them all together, mingle them, and what you've got today is humanity. And we have to take responsibility. We have to literally force ourselves to say, no, I cannot accept my current way of life, my current way of thinking. There is something more. I can feel it in my heart. And that's going to be the secret when we do the next podcast, Knowing Your Heart. Because this one, Dimension, Realms, and Universes, will coincide with knowing your heart, because you'll already start to understand what dimensions and realms and universes are all about.
Well, speaking of, how we were talking about the universes, and we were imagining like a big ball of all these marbles put together.
Yes,
Each marble is a universe. And are they? So you said that they're all expanding right now.
Absolutely.
And so by definition, they're all next to each other and they're round.
Yes,
they're like a ball?
Everything formulates in a circular motion. Everything in the entire universe. Everything is a circle. And that's really interesting. We are expanding outwardly in a circle vibration because it means balance. Just like the yin and yang in a circle of balance. It is the way it is. It's the way the original consciousness began its evolution. And we are the end result. The Nicarons are the end result. The Ilias are the end result. The Hemazines are the end result. Right? The Muhas are the end result. And that's how it works. And it's moving at the speed of light. But we on this earth have halted our expansion when it comes to actual growth. We are moving in consciousness, but slowly. That's okay. That's not a judgment. That's just the truth. And if we get upset and we become egotistical about it, that means we are at that stage of non-awareness.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to ask, what will we see and experience during the collective transition of human consciousness into the fourth dimension?
On first entering the fourth dimension consciously, you will find your physical senses will be heightened. That is touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing. Your psychic senses will also be greatly heightened. There will be no more drugs, alcohol, junk food, or being a carnivore. In fact, you will not need to eat any solid food or liquids. This change for the better in diet will cause your bodies to alter and become less dense as you stop polluting them. It can't be predicted how long this will take because it is up to each human individual, but those who don't want to change, unfortunately, will be left behind consciously. There will be rebellion within humanity, not wanting to change, not wanting to let go of their old habits and their way of life because they are comfortable with what they know and understand. There will be fear of the unknown, but it will eventually happen. Some will evolve sooner than others, and those humans will be the teachers of those who are still to consciously evolve. Governments, that's a laugh, governments and the monetary-based societies, as you know and understand them, will no longer exist because in the upper levels of the fourth dimension, solid physical matter is no longer an essential ingredient to exist. As you can guess, politicians, military, and bankers will be the last humans to embrace consciousness evolution, as they have the most to lose, meaning control of the masses and physical wealth. But in truth, when you physically perish, all that you have acquired in that lifetime has absolutely no relevance at all. Understand that you won't have light bodies, that is, non-physical bodies, immediately upon consciously entering the fourth dimension. But that is what humanity will eventually evolve into. You will return to what you once were, non-physical beings made of pure living conscious energy, which can manifest themselves in any form they desire. Even over time, learn to manifest a body just like you had or whatever you desire, and eventually travel to other universal vibrations.
Wow. Have some people already progressed into the fourth dimension?
Well, let me put it this way, Michael. Every single human being in their time of sleep, especially deep sleep, projects an astral body or light body. It all depends on their consciousness, but all ventures into the fourth dimension every day of your lives without being physically aware of it. So in answer to your question, yes, some have progressed beyond the third into the fourth, but you all have experienced the fourth dimension to some degree. Now at the lowest end of the fourth dimension is the astral plane. You enter the astral plane in your time of human sleep, and depending on the level of your awareness, you enter it at different levels. And there are thousands of levels as anyone climbs a ladder to higher understanding of existences. If fear and emotions govern your lives, then you go to the lowest levels of the astral plane, where your experiences are often difficult or even traumatic. You see everything in black and white. There is darkness all around, and it seems like it's always nighttime in your human dreams. Remembering your so-called human dreams are in fact reality. The astral plane is where each of you confront your conflicts, your fears, your negative creations, and especially your most inner fears. In order to move into the higher realms of the astral plane, you need to learn to let go of your fears by resolving your negative conflicts. Your time of human sleep not only serves to regenerate your human bodies, but also serve your conscious learning. Before you can elevate yourself into higher realms of consciousness, you need to elevate your level of thinking by dealing with your fears, conflicts, and especially your emotions. And the astral plane helps you do that. As physical beings, you are the ones who have created your limitations physically and emotionally. Therefore, it becomes your personal responsibility to deal with them and let go. I can imagine most human beings would like to pop a consciousness advancement pill, which would chemically elevate them into the next dimension. Much like you depend on any number of devices and drugs to take the hardship out of any difficult task, be it your health or physical environment. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way because consciousness isn't a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing. And you can't grow consciously by altering your physical form in any way.
What will be different about living in the fourth dimension?
The way you see things will be very different. Not at first, but as I explained previously, when you, the human being, eventually evolve into the higher levels of the fourth dimension, your entire existence will be very different to that of the third, as the third dimension is a physical matter dimension. Let's say, for example, take a cup. When you look at it from a third dimensional perspective, you only see the sides which are visible to the naked human eye physically, but you can't see through the cup. In the fourth dimensional sight, you would see the cup as if it were transparent. You would see all sides at the same time, not just those which are facing you. The way you create things will also be very different. As in the third dimension, you presently create everything physically with thought, and then physically by manufacturing it through a series of steps to reach the end product. In the fourth dimension, you would imagine what you want to create, and then you would materialize it without having to go through the steps you would normally have had to take if you were a third dimensional being. In the fourth dimension, you learn to manifest using energy. In actual fact, magnetic energy called living energy, and create a physical object by turning pure energy into matter through your thoughts of using your most precious gift called imagination.
How is manifestation possible when everything seems so physical here in the third dimension?
The universe is made up entirely, Michael, of magnetic energy, which is living energy. Ask this question: who made all the planets in the entire universal system? Answer would be living energy, which evolves into living consciousness. All of humanity is the original essence of living energy. So if that is the truth, we as humanity have within our cellular structure the actual knowing, the ability to think beyond human logic and create from thought consciousness by connecting with our mind through imagination, and by truly believing beyond all doubt that we can manifest anything directly from living energy and bring it into physical reality. In the fourth dimension, you will learn to consciously create. In the third dimension, you create by using the same energy without even knowing you are doing it. And this is where your problem lies. You have a tool of immense power and possibility at your fingertips, but are not even aware you are using it or how you are using it. Every time you, the human individual, project a thought, you have the potential of manifesting that thought and making it your reality. Imagine what you could do if you understood what you were actually doing when manipulating energy. No longer would it be a dangerous weapon in the hands of ignorance, like a child playing with a loaded gun but not knowing how dangerous that gun can be. You all create situations in your life by the thoughts you project. In the fourth dimension, you begin to understand that thought literally creates, and you learn to harness that knowledge for the greater good of all. Remember, you consciously can't enter the fourth dimension with your fears and negative emotions, so there is no danger in manifestation because you can only manifest from a pure loving heart filled with unconditional love and wisdom. Just think of it, Michael. Would it not be disastrous if you, the human individual, could enter the fourth dimension with full conscious awareness while your fears and negative emotions tag along? Imagine the havoc you would wreak if you used such knowledge and power out of fear, greed, hate, revenge, and vindictiveness. You wouldn't need chemical or germ warfare. You'd have an endless source of energy for mass destruction. This is exactly the reason why human spirits can't go beyond the astral plane with your present level of thinking and consciousness. Your higher self, in fact, your soul, won't allow it.
Right. I was just thinking then, like, it's the astral plane, like, is technically fourth dimension, but what you were saying then is the real fourth dimension just won't allow those lower
That's right.
states.
That's
would,
right.
Would you actually say that the astral realm is within the fourth dimensional realm?
Absolutely.
Fourth dimension.
Yes, it's all part of the same energy, just different steps of vibration. That's all it is. It's like stepping up a ladder. You know, you go up a ladder 4 steps and you see the biscuit, right? And you eat the biscuit. Then you step up another 2 ladders and you see the drink. So you have the drink. You step up another few ladders and what you see is a piece of gold. Then you step up the other ladder, you see a piece of diamond. So what you're doing is you're progressing up the ladder in your own form of richness.
And life, existence, living energy makes it that way so that the negative can't progress. Because, you know, this is what I've more thought of the fifth dimension. But this is moving towards the fifth dimension.
Absolutely, yes. My brother Kanag, they have now transformed and stepped into the fifth dimension. Now, I'm not saying all Nakarons, it's only a very small amount, but it's happening on a regular scale. But my brother Kanag has now learned to understand that he is in the fifth dimension, but he, through the power of thought, can simply create a body and transform back at the same level of understanding that he was when he lived on the planet Nakaris.
Same level of understanding.
Same level of understanding, but he also has his own infinite knowledge if is needed.
And so it's a manifested physical body.
It's a manifested physical body.
In the third dimension.
In the third dimension. And he can even drink liquid and eat food.
Wow.
The difference being, as I've written in my book, The Dream Assassin, Volume 1 and 2, when you put actual solid food into your mouth, it doesn't go into your stomach or your bowels to be released. It literally dissipates back into energy, because energy is everything and everything is energy. And when you put that type of vibration of food into that type of being, the thought power is so immense, it just transforms into energy to what it originally was.
So yeah, you get to taste it.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Chew it, but you don't really have organs, do you?
No organs unless you want to create them.
Yeah, because there's just no need. You look like a
person.
There's
no need.
And so he can then be like, okay, goodbye, and his body just disappears.
He can that's right.
Yeah, dissipate and then back to...
It's like he can step backwards and just go through his own doorway back to his original form. And by the time he gets back in the fifth dimension, he's back to where he was.
Wow.
It's an incredible concept, but actual reality.
Well, we haven't mentioned yet, like, it's also in simple reality as well. You can go however long it takes from first dimension to second dimension to third dimension to fourth to fifth to sixth and so on. It just keeps going, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Higher and higher levels of consciousness and
and to my knowledge,
density.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, I have no idea how high it would go. I believe on this planet, I think it's either 11 or 12 dimension.
Why do you say this planet?
Well, the reason I'm saying this planet because we're separate, Michael. We're evolving in our own space and time. We are not a part of, say, the Nakarons, energy-wise. The energy is similar, but we're not the same thinking being. If a Nakaron came down, right, and literally was himself or herself talking to you like he'd be talking to a Nakaron, you wouldn't even understand him or her, and you wouldn't understand a human. You have to raise your consciousness to meet theirs to communicate. And that's why I have the ability, because I spent over 50 years doing it, and I mean doing it, to be able to communicate with inner worlds of light and higher beings from other dimensions.
Wow. And so you think that you know that on Earth,
Mhm.
it has expanded in consciousness with particular spirits up to the 11th dimension.
That's true.
Wow. And what dimension is Yakis Kardis, your father?
He has none.
He has none, really.
No, he has none.
He's beyond. Oh, you can't.
He
What?
he isn't. I don't know how to describe my father. Um, I remember one time I called him Master, and he looked at me and smiled, and he said, "Please don't ever call me that again."
Wow.
And
Yeah.
the smile on his face was so beautiful. It was like a jokeful expression. I mean, he is a being of the greatest divinity you could possibly think of, and he has evolved over billions of years because the universe has been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trillions of years. So if he's, say if he was 10 billion years old, well, there are beings beyond him again, and beyond them, and beyond them.
Yeah, but it's just out of our scope to really comprehend what. Yeah, like what?
Yeah,
Because if we were to think that, because I remember years ago when I learnt from you, I was learning for instance, what can a fifth dimensional being do? And you've already said it can manifest a physical body back into the physical world, like the third
that's
dimension.
right.
And the sixth dimension, seventh dimension, and so on, they all have extra new skills that they're able
That's
to
right.
use as they go beyond. But it's still like, what was I gonna, it's so, they're so far for us to comprehend. We'd oversimplify it completely, wouldn't we?
Absolutely.
If we were thinking
Because,
about it.
yeah, because we live such a logical life, Michael, and we have been for 928,000 years. And what has really caused us to live this simple level of thinking is the wars. We have had over 157,000 violent wars. And as I said before, over 19 billion humans have been slaughtered. And that is incredible. That is just incredible. I mean, I said something, I'm not sure if I actually said that in my genetics, but I was talking to my darling Michelle about it the other night. And I said to myself, I have to say this to Michael. I said, Michael, comprehend this. Governments declare war, or a dictatorship declare war on another country. They send out bombers or missiles. They hit cities. They kill 100,000 people in one go, if that, or 30,000 or 20,000 or 10. Ask yourself this question. How many innocent children and women who would never want a war since they're the giver of life and should never, ever be fighting because they are the givers of life? How many children and women are blown into 1,000 pieces or no legs or arms and they've got to live life? A child that's only 2 years old, 3 years old, what do you say to those children? How stupid we are as humanity to do such a horrible thing to each other. No one seems to think about that. What happens if the Chinese sent a missile over here and blew up Brisbane and killed like 100,000 people? In that 100,000, there was 15,000 children totally vaporized. How would they feel? It'd be a new way of thinking, that's for sure. It is wrong. No matter how you look at it, no matter what you justify, it is wrong. And all the wars that the Nakarons have helped others, a child or an innocent woman has never suffered by their hand. Only the perpetrators that are willing to kill and murder and rape women and children have perished into nothingness. So it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what? Yeah. Can we just wake up But even if the ones that wake up the most are the ones that are like most conscious, but also most away from, say, governments or war type
Yeah.
entities. Yeah, and like you said, moving into the fourth dimension, the bankers and such will be the last to move there.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you take this one step further. This is what I also said. Can you imagine, really imagine how um, if you put, say, a politician wants to, a government wants to start a war or a dictator, right? Well, just put the two warring countries, their leaders, out on a field and see how long they want to keep killing each other, lifetime after lifetime. It wouldn't be long before all wars would cease on that planet. But while they have people that are so readily going out to get killed or kill, what they don't realize, the karmic debt is enormous. And that's where the big issue is.
And I look forward to the actual stories that you'll be able to share in our karma episode about the different.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard some
Yes.
good stories from you about what's happened
That's
karmically
right.
with reincarnation and such. So I wanted to ask you, how can we help ourselves transform and progress consciously into the fourth dimension?
Well, Michael, this is an answer that may or will press some buttons in many human beings. Yet, I would never apologize for what I'm about to say in total truth. I only believe in the evolution of a species. I have no patience for the negative ego of any species, especially when that species is fully responsible for all the pain and misery that has been created by war. War is simply an excuse for an ego out of control. If a war is needed, here it comes, then let those so-called leaders battle it out for the people. It wouldn't take long for all wars to come to a halt, would it? Be honest. What government or dictatorship would bomb a country knowing that thousands of women, and especially children, will be slaughtered, ripped apart by the bombing? The karma in itself would be carried on for several thousand human years when it comes to reincarnation. It doesn't matter whether you personally believe it or not. Reincarnation is a reality. That's where inner knowledge comes into play, meaning becoming aware that one negative action creates a negative reaction, and so on. Physically, each human individual needs to look at their human diet, their lifestyle, their thought patterns. The human individual needs to feel more for nature and the planet Earth and develop a social and moral conscience. You need to find integrity, compassion, honesty within yourselves. Become less ignorant and arrogant by stepping out of the little boxes that you each have imprisoned yourselves within, and get in touch with your inner feelings to evolve from emotional beings into feeling beings, coming from the heart, not the lower nature of the human animal. The best place to start is to give up alcohol, tobacco, hard drugs, and especially junk food. Eat only natural foods that help create a balance within you. Cleaning up your human body means you can start to think straight, as any drug addict will tell you. But you don't have to be a drug addict to pollute your body and inhibit your abilities to think straight. A bad diet and negative lifestyle will do much the same, the only difference being that it may take a lot longer to kill you. Another really important issue is to stop inflicting cruelty onto animals. That means not murdering and eating meat. When you stop justifying cruelty to other forms of life, you begin to realize that there is no need to harm another living thing. And from there, you develop compassion, understanding, empathy. This is something that many human individuals will find very difficult to give up. Yet those who have become vegetarians, vegans, fruitarians, find it isn't difficult to live the way they do at all. Human beings only find something difficult to change or give up because they are comfortable with how they live, even if it is detrimental to their health, especially their spiritual growth, including their environment and their consciousness. Changing your way of life in order to change your level of thinking and consciousness will be your greatest challenge, because the human ego doesn't like to leave its comfort zone. And this is why it will take a few centuries, if not several thousand years, for all of humanity to progress consciously into the fourth dimension. But don't despair. More and more human beings are waking up and recognizing their limitations and dissatisfactions with their human life. They want to change and grow consciously and are making efforts to do so. And this is a good thing for all of humanity. Remember this: this is not the end. This is the beginning.
Yes, indeed. Hey, I wanted to ask you, can you draw a comparison to Nikaris and they're going through moving to the fourth dimension? Because we spoke about this planet Nikaris a few episodes back. It'd be great to find out their progress, how it went for them.
To your question, Michael, about Nikaris and how they consciously grew, as you are aware, we have spoken about this. My father, Kuntarkis, viewed that planet for many, many thousands of years before he made the effort to confront them in a very, very loving way. And over many, many, many thousands of years, he actually gave talks continuously from one generation to the next. Now, the average human on this planet lives anything from 40 years to, let's say, 100 years in time. If we compare that with a Nikaron, the average Nikaron can live anything between 400 to just over 600 years old if we look at human time. And since they don't have time, and they never really have, but their growth was, how would you say, advanced consciously because of Kuntarkis. He gave them some very simple tools and explained many, many things to them that gave them the insight to want to change. But their conscious awareness and their conscious understanding were leap years ahead of humanity. So to compare their growth against humanity, I wouldn't be fair to humanity, as I am in a human body myself. What I can say, because of Kuntarkis and the things that he gave them, was not just knowledge, but techniques, which they all took up: meditation and how to use their imagination to its fullest. So every family for thousands and thousands of years passed on positive DNA to their child. So the child would grow up with extra knowledge from them and end up being far more balanced. And as they had children, they would do the same. And over many, many, many generations, the outcome was balance. We're here on Earth, and it's really true. This is really true. We are trying, but we're not really succeeding very well because we are such a very judgmental species. We judge everything. We talk behind people's backs all the time. And this is a big problem when it comes to conscious awareness. We can't develop our consciousness if we're living in that lower part of our ego. Because the ego loves to feel good, loves to feel as if it's the center of attention. Where in a Chiron, that would never be. They would never do that. So this is something what we need to do first, is to change our thinking so we learn to become feeling beings, no longer connected to the lower nature of our negative emotions. Once we do that, the pathway is not as bumpy as it is today. It starts to smooth out. And we start to grow as a species, as a society. But we all have to do it. Because if we don't, we are constantly going to have first and second dimensional beings interfering with the growth of someone who's trying to grow consciously in the third dimension. And that's where another issue is. So we have to grow beyond that. And this may sound, well, I'm not going to use the word egotistical because I'm not being egotistical. I'm being very direct and very truthful.
It might sound egotistical.
It might sound, yeah, it might. And I don't mean, and if it is, I apologize. But my father, Yakas Kardis, was very wise in how he helped me make up my mind back on Nakaris to come and have some lives on this human world. And the lives that I have had, which I will not speak about because I know the outcome at this time, but the lives that I have had have helped the groundwork in bringing out infinite knowledge that is within our cellular structure. And by doing this now in this lifetime as a walk-in, I am sharing infinite knowledge. And that is my aim and that is my purpose. Even with my wife is very advanced when it comes to awareness. And having our son, who is Nakris, who is the son of Yakas Kardis, the three of us have come together in this lifetime now, after all the hardships and pain, is a wonderful, beautiful thing. Because we are going to help Michelle and I balance out Nakris, who's a bit of a, how would you say, he's a gun-ho type of entity. And he's died many times in battle. And so we're trying to help him become more balanced and more understanding. And when our work is done, like my work, and my body has its expiring date, and it perishes, I will wait in the realm of the astral world or the spirit world for Michelle and also for Nakris, because time factor means nothing. And once he has expired his lifetime in what he is meant to do, we, the three, go back home on Nakaris. And the beauty is, when we do go back, and this is where humanity has the greatest possibilities of achieving, doing exactly what we will be able to do when we go back, is create a body and not go through any more reincarnations, because that is one of the greatest purposes. And as we all grow, we help each other.
That's beautiful. And yeah, that was from the heart. I'm really I'm stoked that you expressed this here publicly on the podcast. That's really cool. I want to, because of this episode being, the theme seems to have been going into the fourth dimension. I just wanted to ask before we close, physically, how will it look when we on Earth individually move into the fourth dimension? Will we die from our physical body and then can just continue in the fourth dimension? How does it physically look?
Both ways, Michael. There will be those that will not actually take their bodies into the actual fourth dimension. It may seem that way because of their level of thinking. But as they grow consciously, they will no longer need those thoughts, believing that their human body is with them. It's like creating a slight illusion to create the outcome pleasantly. It's like the spirits that help you. Say when you first die and you go into the astral world, there are spirits there helping you, and they look like they're taking you to the hospital. But in reality, you're dead. But they're helping you progress beyond, so you don't suddenly panic and literally take off into other vibrations, and it takes human years to find you. Or you create a black hole and you live in that black hole for 100 or 10,000 years. And that has happened. Try to look at it this way. When you go to the lower ends of the astral plane, it's where really evil, naughty people all end up. And they have to deal with what they're doing or what they have done before they can elevate themselves. And some can be there for years from a human term, or even tens of thousands of years, because some don't learn. And in the spirit world, there is no time factor. So it doesn't matter. They create the same situations that they had back on Earth. And to them, it looks real. It's like when you start stepping up the levels of consciousness, you can also create shopping centers, houses that you live in, the husband that you had, the wife that you had, the children that you had. You keep living that existence until your consciousness develops enough to realize that it's not real. And give you an example, this is really a good example. When I was sitting with an elderly lady waiting for her husband to come home from work that was run down by a car. She was sitting, and she was about 80, 85. She was sitting on this little porch, and she had a small table, a square table with a cup of tea and her pot of tea, and there was even steam coming out of that pot of tea. And she asked me who I was because I knocked at her gate, and she said, "Yes, can I help you?"
Sorry, can I just clarify? Is she the one that had died?
Yes, she died.
So she's died by being hit by a car?
No, Michael. No, what it was, her husband died while she was alive. And when she physically died, she recreated from her emotions of what she was reliving. And what she was reliving was waiting for her husband to come home from work, but he never will. And she was waiting. It doesn't matter how long it took. And when I rattled the gate, she asked, "Would you like a cup of tea, young man?" I said, "Yes, please." So she poured a cup of tea and we sat talking. And over a period of time, I got her to understand that her husband won't be coming home because he passed away about 20 years ago. And she's been living this same thing, no longer physically, because she died of a bad heart while she was asleep. And once she started to see that and started to accept it over a period of time from a human perspective, right before my eyes, without going into some other parts, cutting it short, she was holding a cup of tea, and suddenly her eyes widened and she looked at me and she smiled. The cup of tea dissipated. So did the table, so did the house, so did she, and everything that she created. And she went through the light. Going through the light is a step up the ladder. That's how it is. That's a simple explanation, but that's how it is without being too complicating.
Yeah, thank you. And so in the fourth dimension, do we still reincarnate?
No.
No. So is it kind of like going through the light to then be in the fourth dimension?
What happens, you go through the light, and as you learn to let go of all your human emotion, right, that you still might hold a little bit onto, once you do that, you start stepping up the ladder further. And that's when you start becoming a creator. In a small way.
Sure.
You start living a different life. And you can create a house. You can live any life that you want. Anything. You can become a football player, a champion weightlifter. Whatever you desire, you can do until you're willing to let go and move again and again and again and again until you have complete conscious awareness. And that's when you move into the higher realms of the fourth dimension. And you can then incarnate, if you choose to, on any planet that you choose to, if you're aware of it. Because you've gained and let go of human ego and human emotion and become feeling beings, knowing that you are returning to your natural state and create a body, and you can go anywhere in the universe, and you can work your way up into the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, and so on. It's an individual's choice what you do.
And so for us on this planet, the next step is to be moving into conscious levels of the fourth dimension.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I'm not quite sure. We don't incarnate again and again there. So we are just the one being in the fourth dimension, growing and leveling up to higher and higher levels until.
That's true.
Okay.
See, yeah, and the other thing, Mike, is what you just said is very important. But also remember, you elevate your consciousness because that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So once you leave your body perishes, you're taking that knowledge with you. But there will be humans on this planet that may be living here for the next 200,000 years while you're in spirit world. But you are choosing no longer to live a human existence.
Physical existence.
In this vibration here, planet Earth. But you may choose to go somewhere else because there are multidimensional worlds.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Kuntarkis, for sharing all that you have on this very interesting topic.
You are very welcome. And I think the next one we should do is definitely knowing your heart.
Yeah, you reckon that'd go well with this one?
Definitely.
Follow on well.
Yes.
Excellent.
And then I feel after knowing your heart, if you're agreeable with this, to do the interview, we should do beyond the fourth dimension.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mm.
Beyond the fourth dimension. Yeah.
Beyond the fourth dimension.
Yeah. Well, that's it for now. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Michael Yon, and of course we've been with Kuntarkis, and Kuntarkis I'm going to ask you something that I sometimes do, and I just love the response. Will you share another sentence or paragraph in Sanskrit for us?
Okay. Niba Shanirala Salu Kanilamata Tatatisha Oshi Alalama Keso Sadi Hahyuha Tama. What I said, Michael, every human being has the same birthright as any being like me. All we need to do is ask ourselves the most simplest question. Do I want to grow, or do I want to just live this logical life as a human being?
Excellent. Thank you. Well, and until next time, we trust you enjoyed, and we look forward to you hearing the next one. If you'd like to contact us, simply email kuntarkis@gmail.com. Also, Kuntarkis's website is etcconsciousness.com, where you can read about his books and other things. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Michael Yon, and stay tuned for more.